Hello, my name is Michele, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Joining me on the podcast today are Paige Risley and Beth Moffatt of We Recruit Well. Both of these women have worked in the online space, both in positions of being virtual assistants, and now they have pulled together their resources and created a company, We Recruit Well, where they help place online resources for your company. And so we're going to talk today about what that process looks like, how to be prepared for hiring, and how to make sure that you are matched with the correct person. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Paige. Hey, Beth. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Michele.
Hey there.
Hey, I am excited to have a conversation with the two of you. I think that, well, Paige, I know you, we work together.
Yep.
I have just met Beth, and I am excited because I know the hole in the industry that you fill with your business. And so I'm excited to talk about that and bring that to our listeners. You both are the co-owners of a company called We Recruit Well. And so you do recruiting for businesses to help them fill positions. And we'll talk about what those positions are. And I just want to point this out. You guys are not a subscription model. So you're not an agency that places somebody with a month-to-month retainer type thing, right?
Right.
I know that we had Laura LaCurzy on in episode 134, and we talked about that model. And we kind of did a small compare contrast with the model of a placement, like a one-time placement. And we'll talk about some of the differences there from your vantage point. And I know, Beth, even in just the pre-conversation, you made the comment that every business really needs to evaluate what works for them. And so we'll talk about some of what does that evaluation look like? What are some of the questions we should be asking to know which way to go and what we need? And so I'm excited to dig in. Before we do that, though, I would love to hear from each of you a little bit of your background and then what brought you two together. So, Beth, you want to go first?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think really our story kind of goes together because we used to be teachers together. In fact, I met Paige when she was my daughter's 7th grade teacher. So that's how far back we go. Then we started teaching together and we really enjoyed that. And as our children got older, we decided, there's got to be something better, more fun we can do that has a little more flexibility. And we discovered the whole world of working virtually. And we took the plunge together and started out actually as virtual assistants for a subscription model company and absolutely loved it, loved what we did. And then at one point we both, Paige went first, then I jumped in later. We both began to work for the corporation rather than being individual contractors, and just loved it. I loved what we did. Loved working with that team environment, but then thought, maybe there's a better way to do this and maybe we could do it. And that's where We Recruit Well was birthed. So that's a little bit about where our stories really dovetail quite a bit, and Paige can tell you a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yep, that's right. We met it's almost 20 years ago now, isn't it? Coming up on really close to 20 years. I was a classroom teacher for years. Kind of part of my desire to get out of the classroom came not only, you can only teach middle school kids for so long before you really get beat down.
You need a break.
Need a break. And
my mother taught 6th grade science for 32 years.
Bless her heart.
Yes, she's a saint. I'm just going to put that out there.
But no, I knew when I started thinking about transitioning, I knew I wanted to work from home. I had no idea what I was going to do and what that was going to look like. But my husband was doing it. He was traveling a lot, and I knew that's what I wanted. So just started kind of researching online. The company we went to, we actually found out about it from a friend who went to a business dinner with her husband and met someone that worked there. So,
oh wow,
honestly, a lot of it is who you know and being in the right time at the right place and finding out about something and then getting on board. And we both started with that company, like Beth said, pretty early on in that company's history. We were probably one of the first 50 to 75 virtual assistants that they had hired. So we kind of got in on that ground floor, watched them grow, watched how they did things, and just saw how that industry could help small business owners, especially. And not only small business owners, but churches and any kind of an industry, really.
Right.
So worked for them for years. I think maybe 5 years is what 5 or 6 years is what I ended up working for them between being a virtual assistant and being on the corporate team. When I transitioned to the corporate team, I was hired as a recruiter. So I was working in talent acquisitions right from the beginning there, and just fell in love with that process of not only finding somebody and offering that person the opportunity of being a virtual assistant and giving them that flexible work life, but also then finding the right assistant for the client and knowing that, hey, I made this match. And there are some people who, I bump into now and then, and I find out who they are. And I realize, I matched you with your VA 6 years ago. And they're just dumbfounded. They're like, oh my gosh, we're still working together. So there's just something fulfilling about that really made us think, hey, we can do this. And that subscription model, why it's right for some businesses, it isn't for others, because you have a much larger overhead's not the right word, but you have a much higher per hour cost,
right,
in the subscription model. And with us, you don't. You're more in charge of what you want to pay someone per hour,
right. You made a comment there that I just want to kind of springboard off of, Paige, where you made the comment about really being able to get that right fit. Just like when we are hiring any position, it's not a one-to-one, I need a junior designer, here's junior designer, it's going to be a fit. There is a process, and there is a merging. I know in the coaching program, in my Aim with Intent, we talk about your why, your mission, your vision, your values, and making sure that when you hire somebody in, that they have an alignment in those areas, or you're going to struggle, they're going to struggle. It's not going to be great. Tell us all, either you, Beth, both of you, a little bit about your process. What I'd love to do is start by talking about what your process looks like to find that talent, to do the talent acquisition. Then I want to kind of twist it a little bit and go, what do we need to do on our side if we're looking for a position so that we're ready to bring that person in, or even to go look for them. We have to be ready to look for them. And then we have to be ready to bring them on board. So start a little bit with what the talent acquisitions piece looks like on your side.
Okay. So really our process is going to be unique for every business owner that comes on board. So we don't carry a bench. We do have multiple people in the industry we can reach out to, and we do. So we know people and we do reach out, but every search starts pretty much from scratch. And it begins by talking to that client, finding out what they want, what they need, what their personality is like, the type of person they like to work with, the type of person they don't like to work with. Is this person going to be involved in personal tasks? Are they going to be in the nitty gritty of your personal life, or is it just your business? So just a deep dive into all things that they need. And then we build that job description specifically based off of that discovery call with that client to make sure that we've covered all those bases and we've got it all in there. Then that job gets posted. We gather those resumes. And like I said, we know people. So a lot of times we're searching back in our files and reaching out to people. It's like, hey, we think we've got a client you might like. We'd love for you to go through the process. And we don't just look at, we're not just checking boxes. We've had people before and they checked all the boxes on paper. They checked all the boxes on a phone screen. But then when we do a Zoom interview, within 3 minutes, I'm finished. And you just know there's something about that face-to-face or Zoom face-to-face that you either connect with someone, you don't, or you get a feeling for, oh, they're a great fit, or something that, nope, it's not. And so it is more than just checking the boxes and, oh, yep, they can do the job. We're looking specifically for somebody that can fit and work with that specific business owner and within their industry. Beth, I'll let you add more because I know you do the deep dive with our clients typically.
And that is really more my role. I actually, when Paige started in talent acquisition, I jumped in with her. They called me Paige 2.0, and I loved it. And I really enjoyed getting to know those, each candidate, learning about them, kind of learning to read them, which is very helpful. But I quickly learned that I missed the interaction with the clients, and so I ended up on that side of the equation, and just getting to know clients, learning how to ask the right questions. For example, a great question that we ask, and Paige alluded to it earlier, of the person that you work with best on your team. Tell me a little bit about them. Tell me about what you like about their work style. What is somebody that it really bothers you about the way they work? Because those uncover things that maybe you don't even realize. And it also helps us as we begin to look at those different candidates that come into the picture and be able to kind of discern between which one we think would be great. When she spoke of that earlier, I thought about one of the latest clients that she starts on Monday. So this is a client we just finished with. Paige and I had a call with him and asked 100 questions, and he was nodding to nothing. We got off the call and we both said, remember so-and-so we interviewed for this other client? And we both said, yep, we think she's the one. And guess what? He interviewed 2 different people, but that's the one he chose. And we knew it right off because we had already interviewed her for someone else, and she was a great fit, but she was an even better fit for this guy. And I mean, they're going to light the world on fire. And it's just really, as we begin to learn more about you and learn more about the different candidates that bring in. And I do think that having a really good job description really helps us, because then we have the right people applying. And we have so many times they'll say, I read that job description, that was me. And we know we've got one, we've got a good one right here. And so developing a very big picture of what it is you're going to need to be able to do. Maybe you don't have every single skill, but you can gain those skills are super important. So
you interview the hiring manager, if you will, right? And you create a job description, and then you go out and you post that description, you get candidates, and you do first line interviews of those candidates before you ever bring it back. So I'm assuming that if you got multiples, you're going through based on criteria and ranking them internally and removing some so that you're not sending 15, even if you've already discounted them. So you're sending your top 2 to 3, 2 to 4, something like that to the hiring manager and saying, review these. And I've worked with similar type companies, and I'm assuming you do similar in that those Zoom interviews are recorded and passed on so that the hiring manager can see your calls or hear notes or get notes or something about your initial interview. And then they go through the interview process.
Yeah. Yeah. We start straight from that application. On the application, we typically have 2 or 3 weed out questions. this last one that we just did, he only uses Apple products. So one of our weed out questions was, do you use an iMac? Do you have a Mac computer and an iPhone? And if they said no, they didn't go any further. They were just immediately disqualified. But we typically pick 2 or 3 pretty big deal breakers that, the client has given us an indication that, they must have this or they can't do this. And we make questions out of that. So we have those. And then we, again, are digging deep into that interview that Beth had, the discovery call with the client, to create the interview questions. All the interview questions, the job description, before we post it, before we start our process, we send those all to the client so that they can approve them. They can read through them. They can make changes. They can add questions in. So they're really kind of going along the process with us, but they're not doing any of the work. We're doing all of it for them.
You're guiding it and you're doing all the work. I was trying to think about when I went through a similar process. One of the things that was also helpful was creating the 30, 60, 90-day requirements. So not just the job description, but saying, here's what I expect to have accomplished in 30, 60, and 90 days so that everybody knew what was expected coming into that role. Do you find things like that to also be helpful in the interview process?
We do. We really lean toward people who have worked virtually in the past, so that they already have a really good feel for what it means to work remotely. We've kind of taken a chance on people before that, are like, oh yeah, I kind of worked remotely in this last job. There's just something about it just doesn't work really well for our clients. So we really look for someone who already knows going in, I know what I need to accomplish in 30, 60, 90 days. And also we let the client and the candidate know that for that 30, 60, 90 days, we're going to be checking in and saying, how is it going? What can we do to help you? Where are you in this process? Are you meeting regularly? Have you found a good task management system to help you along in this? It's a great conversation because, I get to hear the positives and they'll say, what about this? What if we were doing this? And we can make suggestions. It keeps Paige and I on our toes because we have to know really what's going on out there and what the latest and greatest is in the virtual, remote, or hybrid world.
So when you talk about really having had the opportunity to work virtual before, having that virtual skill set, what kind of things are you looking at and talking about? Let's get a little more granular with that. What does that mean? Because these days, anybody who's sitting home behind a Zoom computer is going to say that they work virtually. So, and I'm not saying that that's not a virtual work, but that's different than working in an online space virtually. Share a little bit about what that looks like or how you narrow down to determine.
Really, one of the questions that we ask on our application is describe your virtual work or remote work experience to us. And if they, in this age, if they say, I've been working remotely since the pandemic, I mean, that's kind of, I don't want to say that's a red flag, but that can be a red flag. When I look at a resume, as I start to vet people, if they're working for big corporations and it's just, they're working remotely. We're looking for somebody who has worked with an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a ministry, a nonprofit, a smaller organization, and they have worked in a remote capacity pretty much 100% of the time. They've worked from scratch to set up SOPs, processes. They've gone out and they can suggest the tools. They know the lingo, they know the tools that they're using. And then when we get them on a phone screen, that's what we're listening for. We'll say, tell me some of the tools that you find most effective in guiding a client to work remotely. And we're listening for Slack, Airtable, Asana, Trello, Zoom. I mean, we're listening for all those. If I can't tell you how many people just say, oh, I know Google Suite. Okay, that's great. So does my 9-month-old grandson.
Yeah, right.
So, it's more than just Microsoft Office and Google Suite. There's so many other things out there. The other thing that we're really looking for and really listening for is that they are adaptable and flexible. Because Michele, you know, just as well as I do, just because we work together, it's, if something doesn't work, you have to be able to just give it up, walk away from it, and completely start over with something new and try again. So they have to have that flexibility and be willing to just drop something that they've pretty much poured heart and soul in, that they thought was going to work, but now it's not. So, you know, that's really what we're looking for on the side of that virtual assistant for that person, is that those are the things that we're using to find out if they have worked remotely, if they are a true virtual assistant.
Okay. And so on the client side, before they ever call you, what could they do to have themselves prepared for this process? I mean, my thought is at some point they would have to be able to determine if they even thought they could, or if they would be willing to have that virtual position, right? Mm-hmm. Prior to the pandemic, I think many of us in the world, I'll just be very generalized with it, thought that in-person jobs were the way to go. And I think many businesses have learned over the last 2 years, if you will, that there is an opportunity to hire skill sets and to have that remote work. And while it is remote, sometimes from the pandemic, it opens up the door. I can imagine the virtual world has exploded over the last 2 years because people are realizing you don't have to be beside me. I know even my husband works for a technology company, and you know, I think a lot of technology companies at first where everybody's got to be in the office, Google all of them. And then they realized, wait a minute, people are really working from home. Like that used to be the fear, is that if you went home, you weren't going to work. And not only that, they have balanced lives more so. They're not spending, my husband was spending 10 hours a week in the car, if not more, getting back and forth to work. That's 10 hours that he can work out, that he can do something different and still have a full work day, if not more than others. And so I can just imagine that it's all exploded and we're having to learn to say, I think we could hire virtually. So let's say that we've figured out we can hire virtually and we're at least open to it. What are some other things we need to do as hiring managers before we call you that puts us in the best place to work with you when you answer the phone?
I would say probably the two things we talk about the most in those initial calls is, in fact, we just finished our weekly meeting, is how are you going to hire them? Are you going to hire them as a W-2 employee? Or are you going to hire them as a 1099 contractor? So that's something we can actually talk you through, because there are pros and cons to both. And you just really need to know and understand that. I also think a lot of times people come to us and they think, oh, I've got to have a full-time person, or I only need somebody 5 hours a week. Well, you don't really know. We can help you kind of talk through all the different things where you see gaps and kind of help you figure out how many hours a week we think that is. But I will tell you, I don't think we've ever had anyone start out at 5 or 10 hours that didn't immediately grow to 20, 30, even up to full time. And truly we've had people say, oh, I'd never hire a full-time virtual assistant or a virtual, any kind of other position. And I can't tell you how many of them that we've done, that we've even this year have placed, who are already now full-time within just the last 6 to 9 months. So I think people are realizing there's a lot out there that someone working virtually can do. And an exercise, you probably heard the bucket exercise or whatever. That's one a lot of times when we get on a call and someone says, well, we're not real sure what we'd have someone do. And so we kind of talk about putting everything you do in buckets. Here are things I hate to do, don't ever want to do, would love to give someone else. Write those down. Every time you start to do it and you think, oh, that needs to go on that list, go write it on that list. Then there's a lot of things that you probably would really like doing, but you're not the best person to be doing it. And those are the ones that are really hard to give up. And I think that's where a lot of business owners are like, yeah, I know I need someone to help me, but I really want to hang on to this. Well, you need to get those things down on a list, because pretty quickly, if we get you the right person in there, you're going to want to turn them over. And you've got to figure out how you're going to train them, get them up to speed, and turn that over as quickly as you can, so that you can look at the high capacity things, the things that only you can do. And those need to go on a list too. And that's really needs to be your focus. How can we help you get your eyes over on all those things that are really going to help you grow your business, make your business great, and let somebody else do all the other things.
Right. And finding the person, this was the conversation that Kelsey and I had when we were talking about operations. Laura, I think all of us that are in the hiring space or that coach in that space, I always have them put on a list of things you hope you never have to do again. Put down a list of things that you'd be happy to hand over if you felt confident in the person. And then write down, like you said, the list of things that you love, that you want to do as the queen bee role in your business. And then let's work to protect those things. Or what are the things that you would love to do, but don't have any time to do, so that we can get these others off of your list. And so it is really helpful, like you said, to first of all, figure out, I think I'm going to hire virtually. 2, do I think it's going to be 1099 or W-2, or am I open to even having a conversation of the differences and how that might fit? And then even having the buckets. I mean, it's great to come in with a job description, but that's not necessary if they've got their buckets and some idea of, I need help. This is the kind of help. This is what I'm looking for. That's kind of the beauty of what you do, is help create the job description, create the interview questions and the process around that hiring, because that can be intimidating. Number one, it can be intimidating if you have not done it before. But number 2, I remember hiring one time. Oh my gosh. And I posted something up like on Indeed and on the boards. I got so inundated with resumes and letters and reach outs. And if you don't answer them back immediately, some then get all in their feels, as my kids would say, and they wouldn't let me know that I didn't answer them back fast enough. And I mean, it's just like, I was like, oh, good gracious, this is like a whole skill set just to handle the inquiries or whatever. And then, I think it was also hard as a solopreneur, making some of those decisions by myself and not having anybody else in that interview process, nobody to talk about, did you notice this or did you notice that? I know in one of my last hirings, I went in thinking that I was going to go one direction and chose a different direction, because when we got what it looked like on paper was a totally different feel, that connection that Paige talked about when we got on that Zoom call. And so what was nice was I had somebody else like you guys in that interview with me. So when we were done, I could be like, I picked up this vibe. Did you pick up that vibe? And, to either have it confirmed or stretched or tested a little bit was really, really nice.
And that's another part of our process that is a little different. We each have a touch point with a candidate. They fill out that application. We will do a phone screen, and one of us does the phone screen with them. If we're moving them on to the Zoom interview, the other one of us does the Zoom interview. So that by the time we have 3 or 4 candidates that we think are good fits, Beth and I can have a call and we can say, all right, did you see this or did you see this? And even if I get finished with a phone screen, say, hey, I really liked her, but I'm unsure about XYZ. Can you dig in on your interview about these 3 things? And then when we send these candidates to the clients, we kind of like to do it where we send them the information. So they get the resume, we do check references, they get references. If the references respond. So they get those 2 things. And then a write-up about them, our interview notes, all that information. And then we like them to review that information. So we kind of like to send that on a Thursday and then meet with them on a Monday or Tuesday. So they have had time to review the candidates, kind of form some opinions, form some questions, and then have a call with them and ask, do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? And then at that point, we can kind of guide them and talk them through. And sometimes we've had clients that go a completely different direction based on an answer to something they've asked us. We try not to give them our opinion up front and say, hey, we think you should go with A, but here are the other 2. We want them to form an opinion so that then we can come back and discuss it and a lot of times they go in a whole nother direction based on, then they go ahead and interview the three and they go, oh, I see what you mean. I'm glad I interviewed that person.
Yeah, it is. It's just such a nice process to not have to do it all by yourself, because different people see different things in different ways. And it is interesting what kind of comes out in an interview, from people that have strong opinions about different things, or their aspirations for their own personal job and career isn't in alignment with what maybe the hiring manager sees as the career path for that particular role. And so then I've done a couple where you realize at the beginning, you're a fit today, but you're not going to be a fit tomorrow.
Right.
And so I don't know that I want to invest in you today if in the very short term you're going to be out. I would rather invest in somebody who has some longevity, in this particular role. Tell me, or tell the listeners a little bit about the different types of positions that you all focus on hiring for. I mean, you can't be everything to everybody. So what is it? Where have you focused, and where is your genius in the hiring process?
I would say that our superpower, our genius in this market is that executive virtual assistant role. An executive virtual assistant, a C-suite virtual assistant, a virtual assistant for an entrepreneur, anybody that is looking for pretty much a right-hand man, right-hand woman, somebody that can just come in and fix your life. Social media, digital marketing, something else that we do that we're really good at as well. Project management. I would say I don't really want to call it relationship management, it's not a customer service representative, but somebody in that space who can kind of interact with your clients for you on your behalf as well. Office business management, somebody who can come in and help you run that business. We do that as well. We have, the pandemic kind of threw everybody a curveball, including people in the remote space, even though we were already in it. Right now we're seeing people want hybrid. They want a little bit of both. They want somebody who can be remote, but they want somebody who's close enough they can meet in person, or somebody that can come into the office. But most definitely our wheelhouse.
People are craving connection and relationship.
They are. Big time. Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're having online Zoom fatigue as much as we, and here I am, I run my whole business through Zoom. It's different. And there is a part that you just want to, Paige, you just came to the event that I did. People just want to connect in person. They want that living, breathing touch point. So I can see that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It definitely.
But they also know that there's a beauty to being able to work from home. So.
Exactly. And that's what people want. It's not that people want to stay remote and they want to stay working from home. People are craving that flexibility. They want the flexibility too. Hey, I can come into the office. Hey, I can work from home. Whether they just need to stay at home and work to be more productive, or they've got something going on.
Hey, I'm having, something done on my house and I need to be home while they do it.
I've got my siding getting fixed. Yeah. Something. Exactly. There's all kinds of reasons.
I need a new roof and I just need to be at the house for that. Right.
Exactly. There are all kinds of reasons. We do try and steer away from 100% face-to-face in office every day, 9 to 5 jobs. Those are very hard to place for us, just simply because of what we're doing and the people we're looking for. It can be done remotely so successfully.
That's right. What do you think really makes a successful placement? Like, what have you seen that made the placement? Because here's one of the fears. I'm going to go in, I'm going to hire this person. They're going to be with me 3 to 6 months, and then they're going to leave, and then they're going to walk away. What is it that you have seen that is like the special sauce, if you will, that allows on both sides, the employer and the employee, in whatever way that they're doing it, to really be a successful placement? Like, how would you define that, and what might that look like?
I think that as far as from the assistant point of view, we're really looking, and I don't want to say that we're looking for people to use buzzwords, because that's exactly what they are, as buzzwords. But we want to see someone who really wants to serve that's really their desire. They like, it just really lights their fire to serve other people. And you can see that. You can see the passion for that. I also have seen the really good connections is when they can quickly become passionate about what the client is passionate about. Doesn't mean that they have to be an interior designer themselves or really enjoy that, but they can see that and see the value in it and get excited about it and what that person's trying to accomplish in their business. And you can usually tell if someone's gonna be that way pretty right off the bat.
That's a good point, Beth. Kelsey and I actually just made a similar point a couple of episodes ago where we were talking about during one of my hiring processes, the person was like, I want to be out front. And I'm thinking, why are you coming in to support my business, but you want to be out front? That felt odd to me. Like, why would she want to be out front of my business? Right. And Kelsey's comment was about the same Paige, just like you, that coming in to serve, like, how can I take things off your plate? How can I make your life better? What if we were to do that? One of the first things, Paige, you did over on mine, I mean, thankfully we had a quick turnover, but I gave you all my SOPs. We've talked about it before on the coaching side of things, talked about what you could do and, you know, what it might look like quickly. You had some SOPs. And one of the first things you said was, hey, Michele, I think there might be a more streamlined way to run your podcast on the back end with some of the organizational pieces. Can I move everything to Airtable? You're like, I know it. I know what to do there. And I think that we could be quicker, faster, and more organized. I'm like, do it, go. And we've never looked back. We haven't regretted it a bit. And I said to you from the beginning, tell me what you think. Well, I'm hiring you because both your points, you know what you're doing. You understand the project management and, task management. You understand these systems. Here are the systems I already have. If there's I didn't even have Airtable at that point, or I had one little thing, but not a day-to-day use. You tell me what I need, and I'm going to trust you in your position to go get it. And I think that trust is a big piece of it, because I knew that, you and Kelsey and others, Danny, others that are on my team helping me, you're here to try to help me do what I do best so that I can go do that work. Like you said, Beth, the bucket of here are the things I love to do. And it is interesting that you could tell. That's exactly what I could tell when I got on my interview process was this person is a bit more out for their own company business than they are. They're looking for a job. They're not looking for a why to get behind and to support. And it was glaring. You couldn't tell it in written form, but you could tell it when we got on the interview.
I think the client side, to answer that question about what makes those matches work. When we meet with our clients, then we're, trying to sell ourselves to them. So when they come into us as a lead and we start meeting with them, we're looking for clients that we would want to work with.
Right.
So if we're meeting with a lead and this isn't somebody that I would want to serve or I would want to work with or be their virtual assistant, I don't want to hire them for my company. I don't want to find them a virtual assistant because we're salesmen on both ends. We have to sell the client to every person we interview the same way we're trying to sell the virtual assistant to our clients.
So you got to like both. I mean, you've got to be connected to both
of them. Yes, we have to like both of them. And I know that's another thing about Beth and I. We're sort of yin and yang. I hate that term, but it does apply. Beth is a very good front-facing, client-facing face and person, and I'm a very good back-end operations, keep things moving. But then on that talent acquisition, that self-aware, emotional intelligence side, I am very, very self-aware, very highly emotionally intelligent. And as I'm talking to people, I can usually within about, a 95% success rate, figure out which person the client should go with almost every single time. I know who they should take. And I think I've been right almost every time. I don't think I've been surprised yet.
Because let me back up 1 second. I think some of that too is because you are not as emotionally invested as either of those two people. So you have the ability to stand outside of it and to hear and to see, right? That's one of the beauties of what I do in coaching is I'm able to see a pathway where the other person can't quite see it. We're recording this in the fall, and I kind of liken it to going to a corn maze, where you're in the middle of the corn maze. On the outside, you can see the picture of what's in there, but when you're in it, you have no clue where you are. And then they've kind of got the lookout in a lot of these, and somebody can climb up in the lookout and see where you are. And that's kind of what we have the ability to do. You two in your role, me in my coaching role, we can climb up in the lookout and we can say, hey, I kind of see a pathway for you here that you just can't see when you're in it.
Yeah.
That's a great picture, Michele. That is a great picture.
Yeah, that's very, very, very true. And we like it when a virtual assistant starts to see that picture for the client as well. And as they're going through the process with us, so from the time they've applied, they've had a phone screen, and by the time they get to a Zoom interview with Beth, they're even giving Beth ideas if she's doing the Zoom, hey, here's what I saw on their website. Here's what I learned from Paige. Here's what I have found. And here are some things I would do. And then by the time they get to interview with the client, they're just not, they're ready.
They come
ready.
packed and ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, I don't know that I would ever go back. I mean, I'm not saying I will never, because, we've learned, I'm in my 50s. I know not to say that. Learned that the hard way.
Yep.
But I can say that unless I was absolutely pressed, I personally will not go into an interview process again without another set of eyes and ears around me. I just won't do it in some capacity, because I just think, if you go into corporate, you're always going to go through multiples. And so having you all do that, and again, to have kind of that outside viewpoint where you see what we don't see, you see what's unspoken. And, sometimes there's not even the awareness of all that we need. I know I've hired over the years, and sometimes I didn't even know what I needed. I just know I needed. And it was more of, I think the position will develop as I go along. Now, that's not always been a success because I wasn't prepared. They weren't prepared. Paige, you've heard me say this in my coaching all the time, but I believe hiring is like bringing in guests to your home, and you need to have the home or your business prepared for them, which means a job description, expectations. You wouldn't bring somebody into your home for a weekend event and say, I didn't make the bed, the dishes are dirty, we have no food in the house, here's a toilet brush, go and you clean that bathroom before you use it. I mean, we just wouldn't do those things. Yet we bring people into our companies completely unprepared. And then we wonder why it wasn't a good fit and why they're not happy to come back. And so if we can do the work on our side before we hire, and they're doing the work on their side to pack correctly, then when we come together for that weekend, right, it becomes something glorious and wonderful, and we want to continue doing it. Question for you in that, I've asked this a couple of different times, but I'd be curious to hear what the two of you say. What are some good indicators that a business owner could start to see or recognize that tells them they're ready to make that hire? And so then, of course, to pick up the phone and call you. But what is it that they're going to recognize that says, I need somebody? Because that's what we get all the time, right? I think I need to hire. I'm not sure if I need to hire. How do I know when I'm ready to hire? What do I do?
I would say if your email or your calendar are a mess, absolutely. You've got to get someone in there to manage it for you and turn it over and let them do it, because someone else can do both of those things so much better than you can. I also think that if you see the need to be using some type of project management system, whether it's proprietary to your industry or whatever, and you think you're going to implement it, or maybe you have just implemented it, and it's basically you and maybe one or two other people that are dealing with that, and you don't have someone who's over that. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times, even this year, we have helped someone find an assistant, an office manager type person, because they're implementing some type of management system and need someone to just be in charge of it. And that's absolutely what someone else can be doing. You shouldn't be touching that thing. You should barely know how it works, to be honest.
Right. You should be able to just get yourself around in there.
Absolutely. You should be able to log in and look around, and it should tell you what you need to know. You should be able to pull up the reports or whatever, but somebody else should be in there and know that thing backwards and forwards. And that is, I would say, key, especially if it has to do with like invoicing, job sites, any of those types of things. Someone else can be managing all that for you. And maybe your business isn't huge, but maybe they're only there 10 hours a week. You realize that's only 2 hours a day. That's they're 2 hours focused on doing those tasks a day. That probably takes you 4 because you've been interrupted 10 times before you get
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know personally in our business, answering that question, because, even though we both work as virtual assistants as well as running this business. So we have our hands on both ends of this.
Right. You know what it feels like on both sides.
So running our business, it's funny. Over a year ago, it's been over a year since we decided, we finally kind of like, we're going crazy. We don't have time to do this. We don't have time to do that. And Beth said, I don't have time to do social media. And it's like, I don't like doing social media. And what are we doing? Why don't we have someone for us doing our social media? And we hired somebody to give our social media to. And I'm telling you what, it runs like clockwork and it's beautiful. We don't have to worry about it. It's just go. She does it and it's taken care of. And then again, maybe about 8-9 months ago, it kind of got that way for me. And I'm like, Beth, I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing. I'm doing things I don't need to be doing. And I sat down and put a bunch of processes together and created the documents, and passed. Our social media person is also a virtual assistant as well. So she can do both sides of it. We passed more off to her. And then we did it again just about a month ago. I sat down with Beth and I said, we've had consistently 2 and 3 clients here at a time, and I don't have time for some of this stuff. I'm doing more of it. So, and that's the joy of that virtual assistant. They can start at 5-10 hours a week, and they can grow with you as you need to. For me, a personal indicator that I need help is I am not sleeping at night. I don't want to get out and go on my run every day. I'm exhausted. I can't clean my house. When things start piling up personally for me and my brain doesn't shut down, that's an indication I'm doing too much and I need help. And I need to start offboarding things. So you really don't want to get there. And the joy of that virtual assistant is if you bring somebody in at 5 or 10 hours a week, they got plenty of room to grow with you.
Right. I'll also link to the podcast that I did about delegate, don't dump. And I think that will be a good follow up for those that have hired on how to delegate the work and not just dump it in somebody's lap, because that also creates a successful relationship, right? Here's your job description. Here's 30, 60, 90 days. Now I'm going to delegate, which means I'm going to give with care the work to you. I'm going to educate you, equip you, set expectations, empower you, and encourage you to get it done. I'm not going to dump it in your lap and say, like, what is that? Oh my gosh, I think it's like the funniest commercial ever, where the husband and wife pull up and they drop the kids off with the grandparents. And the minute the grandparents pick up the kids, they run out and get in the taxi and they're like, don't leave me with the baby. My husband and I, we think that is, it's a scream, that little man with that kid running down the sidewalk, don't leave me with the baby. And sometimes I think we put people that we hire in that position, that we dump it on them and we go running out the door. And so just knowing that we can be prepared, they can be, as much as we want the person we hire to be prepared, we need to do the same thing. Awesome. So is there anything else the two of you would like to share about your business, We Recruit Well, that you think listeners need to know?
I think the one other thing that does differentiate us from other businesses is we're small. We are a three people, and we pretty much, when you hire us, you get us. You get Paige and Beth, and we're the ones that are working it, and we're the ones that are taking you through that process. We don't bring you on board and dump you off to somebody else and just keep passing that buck. We stick with you from the beginning to the end. Both of us do. And I think that's what sets us apart. We're very particular about who we work with. Like I said earlier, we want to work with them. One of the clients we did this summer, I'm telling you what, Michele, I might have left you for this guy.
I thought she was going to. I kept saying, no.
I mean, so we, that's kind of the catch-22. We want to work with the people that are clients. We want to work with them. In this guy's defense, I love spy novels and I love all the thing Navy SEAL, and that's kind of what his business was.
Oh, I don't know that I could have competed with that, Paige, but you would have broken my heart if you left me.
But no, it's so that is what's different about us. We truly do take an interest in that business. And then, as the months go by, we love getting the follow-ups. We just absolutely love hearing from, recently we placed Rose Zeffirino with her VA, and hearing from Rose and hearing from her VA and the emails that we get from these people, and just their gratitude, and we are so thankful. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to work with this person. And that's, so it's that personal interest that we like to take to make sure that it is going to last, and that it does, you do work with this person for a long time.
One thing I can also tell you that I see as a differentiator from other companies outside of the not passing them off is you and Beth work really well together. And I think when a company itself works well internally, then the overflow of that to the companies that have the ability to work with them in some capacity, it's heightened. That's one of the things that I even love within my company. I get so many compliments on the event that we just held for the inner circle at how you, Paige, and Kelsey and I, how well we all worked together and enjoyed each other. And so I think when you work in an environment with other people that you respect, that you get along with, and that you enjoy, that joy then overflows. And honestly, that's the gift that I see the two of you trying to bring to those that you're placing together. You're not just placing together to make money, take a check, check mark, that placement's done, move on to the next one. It's a vetting process, a true vetting process. Are you the kind of client that we even want to work with to try to put somebody in your workplace because we feel responsible for that? And then are you the type of person that we trust enough to put into this position to support this company? And is this, it's almost like when you're doing, it's matchmaking. It's professional matchmaking. It's just what it is. All right. And so when you think about that, if you were trying to match two people that you wanted to build a relationship, you would be very cautious and very careful of who you put together, because that they're going to see you, hear you, run into you at some point, and you're going to have to revisit that. And so I appreciate the care, but I also appreciate the friendship the two of you have that's allowed you to have the same heartbeat when it comes to how you run and manage your business, because I think it definitely shows in what you do and how you do it.
Thank you so much. Yep. It means a lot.
So we'll put it in the show notes, but tell everybody where you're hanging out online, since you're online peeps. What is your website and where are you, so they can go follow you?
Yep. You can find us at werecruitwell.com, and we're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, all at We Recruit Well. Is that right, Beth?
That's correct.
Is that right? Yep. At We Recruit Well at all of them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Well, Beth and Paige, thank you both so much for joining us today, sharing about your business, the importance of it, process, how to do it, when to do it, all the things. And I wish you both much success.
Yep, you too. Thanks, Michele.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Paige and Beth, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Hiring really can be scary. And it can be difficult if you're having to do it for the first time or any time all by yourself. And so I really love what Beth and Paige have pulled together to assist all of us so that we don't have to do this alone. So please check out what they have. I also want to help you not have to run your business alone. So if you're interested in coaching or having that second set of eyes or someone to bounce information off of, I would love to be able to assist you with that. You can find more about my services by going to scarletthreadconsulting.com and checking out the Work With Me page. Choose to be profitable every day in your hiring, in your daily business, and certainly in your financials, because profit doesn't happen by accident. Profit is a Choice is proud to be part of the designnetwork.org, where you can discover more design media reaching creative listeners. Thanks for listening, and stay creative and business minded.